I just want to start by thanking you all for being here and for FIDI for giving us the chance to talk about this. I feel very strongly about this topic, and the 39 Club also this is huge for us. So the chance to be up here and talk about this with this panel is awesome. So let's start by some quick intros. I'm going to just ask name and like 2 sentences how you got into this industry. Steve, you want to kick it off?
Well, I'm the editor of the Mover magazine. I got into it in exactly the same way as most of us did, which is by accident. I didn't know what I was getting into and have failed to get out of it ever since. And I'm rather puzzled as to why I'm sitting here, because it's a panel about the new generation, and they've invited the oldest bloke in the room to sit here, and I don't quite understand that, but I'll do the best I can.
Hi, I'm Christina McCarte at AMJ, and I got in after university, just looking for a job, applied everywhere, and I was thankful a moving company took a risk on a young, inexperienced person, and this is now a career. So.
I'm Simon Hurton. I'm the owner of John Mason International. Very similar to Christina, I literally completed university and applied for any job anywhere in the whole of the UK, and ended up in a a DSP at the time before moving on to John Mason.
Hi, I'm Daniela Krumdiek. I'm with Express Transports in Peru. I joined this industry in 2015, but I can say I've been born in this industry. I'm the second generation of a family-owned company.
Good morning, I'm Gordon Bell. I didn't go to university. I think I'm older than you. Am I older than you?
No, not a chance. You're only 35, what do you mean?
I went back to Singapore, where my parents lived, and my mother threw me out of the house and said, "You got to get a job." So they got me a job, and that's what I do. 47 years later, I'm still doing it. Love it.
And I'm Jackie Stauffer with JK Moving. I'm the 39 Club president. When Phil posted the job, I was looking for something in logistics, but all of the job ads said was must have basic knowledge of math and geography. And I was like, I can do that at least. But it's a lot more than that. So maybe that's an example of what not to post. Maybe make it a little more interesting. So to kick it off, let's just start with the big question. What is the incoming generation looking for in a job these days? Anyone? Christina?
The incoming generation is looking for a good salary, as we all are, for flexibility, for a little bit of everything. Let's be honest, we've brought a generation up to say that you're empowered to be and to do anything. You're empowered to create a life for yourself, a life that you want. And so their ask is a lot more than prior generations, and it's changing our industry, it's changing the world. We've got to go with the flow.
So Christina, I'm glad you brought that up, because I feel like it sometimes comes up, obviously there's a widening generational gap. People are staying employed longer, the economy's not amazing, so you have people staying in the roles longer, but a new generation coming in that has very different expectations. Does the perception that, Gen Z and millennials want it all, do you think that plays a role in maybe trying to attract talent, or maybe some clashes in hiring managers and new talent? Maybe Gordon, what's your take on that?
I tend to agree with you, but I think they want more than that. They want a job. They want a job now on their terms. They want your job in about 2 to 3 years, if not sooner. They want your salary package. So I think their expectations have changed. I honestly do. And sometimes it's a good thing and sometimes it's not such a good thing. I think you can be arrogant at an interview, but I actually think that a lot of employers, to be honest with you, I haven't done too many interviews. A lot of other people in our companies have done those interviews. And most of the time, to be honest with you, people are falling into this business. Yeah. And whether it's, through an application, whether it's, a family member, but I think they just want more, and they want it now.
So in terms of, when you're posting a job and you're trying to attract talent and hire them, how do you sort of balance that? I mean, how do you advertise your company and say, you know, we offer things, but manage the expectations a little bit when you're trying to hire Gen Z, for example?
I just want to say that it's okay to say no to these demands, okay?
Exactly.
Because you need to be flexible, but you also need to not cater to their needs where it impacts your company's performance, right? So working from home, okay, but where does it impact your work environment? And it's fantastic going back to what, where is he hiding over there in the corner where he's talking about it's a people thing. Yeah, it's a people thing, but they're here to work for you, to make money for you, to keep everyone else in jobs as well. So you can't be detrimental to their needs where it impacts the business.
I disagree.
I disagree also.
I'm sorry. For business continuity purposes, you need new, young generation to come in, and we need to invest in that. We need to be able to say, yes, we're willing to take 2 years to invest time and energy and mentorship to bring a new generation in. And that's important,
Yeah,
because we'll get
I've
old.
not said that's a problem.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is someone comes for an interview and they say, right, I want to work from home 5 days a week, I want this much money, I want a car, I want this job title, I want to proceed to this job in the next 2 years. You need to be realistic with them. You need to, you have to say no, otherwise you're going to lie to them and they're going to leave your company in a couple of years, right?
True, but create a plan that gets them there. I think they do want it all, and it's good, because they'll bring that to the workplace. They'll want more. They'll want to take us to the next level. And that's what you want, that drive.
But it doesn't have to be one thing or another. You can get to one point, so they also will need a job. I think I'm part of Gen Z, and I think having for example, an hybrid method, so going to work 3 times per week and then 2 days having home office, or having flexible hours. For me, it's all about work-life balance. Gen Z, they want to work, but they also care about life. They care about what they are doing. They care about their hobbies. They care about doing sports. And they will also deliver better if they are working in an environment where they feel comfortable.
But how can the next generation learn from the older generation if they're working from home? How can they not, if they're not in the same environment all the time, learning from day-to-day activities and interactions?
But of course, but that's a mix, so you can do 3 too. Or at least one day. Give them Friday. Then they'll appreciate it.
But I think Simon has a point. I mean, you need to manage expectations when you're hiring. I think we kind of fell into we created this problem maybe during the pandemic when, you know, you were desperate to get new hires. And I think that might have carried over a bit. And to Daniela's point, if you don't have a set plan when you're posting a job, when you're doing interviews, to say, like, this is the deal, you want it, great. If not, you can apply somewhere else. I think you do have to manage expectations, absolutely. They're not, you know, unicorns. They're not like, you can find talent these days, but it's, to Daniela's point, how you package it.
Yes.
Is that fair to say?
I also think, I mean, I hear you, very aggressive sort of stance there, and sometimes when someone walks in, they're just not a right fit. However, you know, I think half the time you know that there's potential in this person who's just walked in. You can see something, they're interested, they're asking you different questions than the last 15 that just walked through the door. They're keen, they were there on time. You know, they haven't got a pair of slacks on with holes in it, or jeans which are all torn. They've made an effort, they've put on makeup, they've put, you know, his best pants on. There's something about doing an interview which you just feel it might work, this one. And I think it's a two-way thing. And if they make the effort, you tend to spend a little bit more time and then a reverse role. And I think that's what's important these days is that, you know, I'm on the mentorship program. And I've actually thought over the last couple of actually 6 months or so, am I doing as much for my own company as I am for FIDI? And if I am doing the mentorship, who is benefiting from this? Actually, it's both of us. It's me, because I'm learning, I'm still learning, and I'm trying to get across, to be honest with you, what a good time I've had. during my few years in this business. Yeah, so I think it's changing. But as I said, I'm coming back to it. You've got this inclination that this will work. Otherwise, I'd run them out the door. So,
but there is, I don't know. You can't name it. It's hard, but you see it. But how do you hook more of those people?
Asset-based movers, our employment is different. There's part-time, there's seasonal, there's frontline, there's operational, there's marketing, there's finance. There's so many opportunities to play. Once you find someone that made that effort, find a fit that works for them. And I think just the opportunity to get in and see what the industry is all about, and then the flexibility, which is on us to say, where do you want to play? And so now the approach for hiring shouldn't be, here's the box that you're going to sit in. It should be, here's where you can play, where would you like to sit? And if we create that opportunity, we'll be able to not only attract talent, but to retain them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to your point, Christina, I've interviewed people maybe for a coordinator, and as they're talking to me, I'm like, no, rates. Like
Yes.
you're a much better fit there, and it's just kind of finding the fit for the person, right? Like you have the flexibility to do that, hopefully.
but you talk about the FIDI family. We all talk about the FIDI family. Well, the initial family comes from your company. You walk into your office every morning, and are they smiling or are they,
They're not there because they're all working from home.
I hear you on that. I hear you on that. But I think working at home works, and I think working at home doesn't work. And it's when it becomes a struggle, I suppose, that you don't understand why they don't want to come in, because to be honest with you, the camaraderie which should happen happens in the office. It's not on a phone. It's not on a Teams call. It's not on Zoom. I think you have to be there, and I'm 100% supporter. We're having problems, I suppose, getting everyone back in. We've let it go. It's very comfortable. They get the dress room, right? You got the tie on, got the underwear or the pajamas or whatever. You can have a cup of tea all the time. But you're on a Teams call and their dog barks. It's annoying. Tell that dog to. Anyway, so I'm just throwing a bone here.
So we are constantly, Steve, I know you have feelings on this. We're not doing ourselves any favors to get people back into the office maybe, or into the office and into the company in the first place, because the way we are presenting this industry is constantly saying, it's not that glamorous, it's not very sexy.
Who is saying that? Who is saying it?
You don't hear it.
FIDI's saying it's not sexy. Why? Their association. They should be bigging it up to everyone.
Yeah, they should.
I am
yeah.
saying it's not sexy. Which industry is sexy?
Well, but what industry?
Sorry, Jackie. I looked online earlier at the top jobs in the UK at the minute that people want. Okay, the number one job in the UK that people want: data analysis. Is that a sexy job? Yeah. Project manager, number 2. Business analysis, number 3. The reason why they're sexy jobs is because they're paying a salary that people want, okay? It's not about having a sexy job. It's about the salary, and that's what young people want. They want these wonderful salaries, and unfortunately, the moving industry is not that world where you're going to come in and get paid a huge salary, okay? So maybe that's where it ties back to having that flexibility, but it's not. We need to not say it's not a sexy industry. We need to be the ones saying, do you know what? It's fucking brilliant industry, yeah? we are sexy. Look, we're flying all around the world. I mean, you've probably been to hundreds of different countries around the world. You all know people in different countries that you could, if you go on holiday, you could probably go for a tea with someone wherever you are in the world. So we need to be bigging it up, each and every one of us, and pushing it as an industry to say, we are sexy, okay?
But you need to be careful there, because not everybody is going to these conferences.
Exactly.
It's a select few.
And I'll come back to that.
Yeah.
I'll come back to that at the end because,
But there's other sides. I mean, you interact with people all over the world, even if you are just emailing and calling. You can't just present that one side, because to Gordon's earlier point, you need to be there in the company a while to work your way up to that. So you need to keep them long enough to get them there. And there are very attractive benefits but they need to stay long enough to reach those.
I agree. It's not just about the money. And yes, the generation that's coming up will tell you, yep, we want the salary that you're making that's been here 10 years already. True. But if you show them the opportunities, if you give them an opportunity to play and to be engaged, and a culture that allows them to feel at home when they're at work, whether that's virtually or in person, that's worth more than all the salary you can put together. Because let's be honest, you can be paid tons, but if you're miserable going into work, or you're miserable communicating and engaging with your own team, it's not worth it. And this generation will say, we want more, and that's both a medium salary that works well and a culture that keeps us engaged and allows us to grow. And we're able to provide that. Is our industry sexy? I think yes, it is, but we're not promoting that. When you say movers and packers, they think trucks and boxes and the guys that goes in and pack. We're much more than that. So if we can market who we truly are, and that's that analysis, yes, that's finance, that's marketing, that's advertising, that's traveling and being able to engage with an audience all over the world. If we can market that to the outside world, they'll know this is an industry you'll be fortunate to be in. And on top of that, the longevity of people that are here, 40-something years for Gordon, 20 years for myself already, and I'm sure if we add all the numbers that are here, we'll be fortunate. So we are sexy, and we're a lucky industry, one, to have you as talent, and we'll be fortunate enough to attract the next generation.
So salaries and benefits, I mean, yeah, we're not the most competitive. To Simon's point, there are other industries that can pay you more, and they offer lifestyle benefits. And I know, Daniela, you have thoughts on this.
No, and I wanted to say, remember on Sunday that we have the project, we talk in the 39 Club about emotional salary. That was one word that we heard about. And it's all about, maybe, I know everybody needs a good salary, but if your company also invests in small things like training, people want to be heard. People want to be, people my age, they want to have ideas, and they want that at least their bosses hear their ideas. They try to implement them. They want to be, they want to be heard. And again, the work-life balance is key, and it's something that it doesn't cost as much. And I know they will deliver better.
Yeah, there's small steps that you can take in a company, no matter what size, that it's just an extra perk. I mean, it's not necessarily the traditional healthcare or other things, but...
Or for example, we were talking about the traveling. I don't know if we can talk already about it. It will be, I think, more about retention, but not everybody can join us in conferences that I know it's like the best we can have in our industries. But actually the associations are making a lot of programs to so you can also enjoy a little bit more about this international business. So for example, the mentorship program, that's amazing. So if you're in a company and you have a mentor for, I don't know, 6 months, I don't know exactly how it works, and having somebody who teaches you, and you see that you are not only learning, but you are, you're not only working, but you're also learning, you will value it a lot.
I'm trying to keep my mouth shut.
I know you will post other opinions.
I have a problem with FIDI 39, okay? I have people at home, I have people in my office at home who are under 39, okay? They never come to conference, okay? So why should they be part of FIDI 39? I know you're introducing the mentor, I know you're working on it, but previously, there's been no benefit unless you come into conference for it. So I just think the associations need to do more about the people who don't get to come to the conferences.
But that's exactly...
you change
now you are. That's fantastic, well done.
Oh, going over the edge.
But I was one more thing, and then I will let everyone else have a chat. We're talking here about us in the room, okay? Us in the room are not the problem. It's the crews, it's the packers. That's where we're going to have a recruitment problem. That's where, in a couple of years' time, we're going to struggle, because they're the ones getting older. That's not an appealing job to go and load of bobs. They can get paid a lot more for just driving. So that is where I think we need to, as an industry, really think about bringing in young people, not people into the back office, into the office. It's them people on the floor who are the true representation of our industry, the face-to-face customer to the customer. So I think as an industry, that's where the biggest problem is that we need to tackle. And maybe how many of you have thought about bringing your best crew, your best packer to one of these conferences?
No, hands up, please.
Yeah.
No, because we think they wouldn't enjoy it. We think, oh no, they wouldn't represent the business. But they're the ones day to day who are involved in it.
Yes, but you can keep them engaged in other ways, right?
They're on the road from 6 till God knows how long, packing up jobs.
True. There are other ways to engage different levels or different types of employees. This is predominantly office-based or management or depending on where you go. But our packers and movers, I agree, they're important. They're a very important part of our industry. But just to give you an example, before I got here, I went around asking everyone how they got into the industry. And 4 out of 10 management will tell you they started on the trucks. So why don't we advertise that? Why don't we share that? Because let's be honest, the next generation doesn't want to sit in the office necessarily. They like being out. They like engaging with customers. Let's sell that. And then if the opportunities are there for them to grow within the company, within the industry, to a part where they're now leadership, it's attractive.
You know, the 39 Club also has the scholarship program, and people within a company can submit a project that they've created. We got one from Dahan this past year, and it was kind of like a packing Olympics. So one group got their companies together, and they had a competition, and they had the packers come and travel, which isn't something I've seen before, and I thought it was pretty cool. And that's, I mean, to your point there, it's something a little non-traditional, but it's a perk to get them more involved. And I think that's a great, I mean, why don't we bring more to the conferences?
For example, for us in Latin America, and I'm going to talk about another association, so please don't kill me, but we have, in LACMA Next, we have a program called LACMA SOS that is actually only for packers who have a family member or themselves. If they are suffering any injuries any injuries and they need any help, then you can present your documentation, and there's a big fund where you can get help. And in Express, we've done it with at least 2 or 3 cases, and I think it helps a lot. And those packers that have received the help I'm sure I'm gonna stay with us probably for all of the time. So there are ways and other things, not only going to associations, to conferences, that can motivate your staff.
Sorry, Gordon, go ahead.
I think you have to slice up your company. So you've got your packers and your drivers, and it's how you treat them, how you give them benefits, etc. Or, you know, I think for the last 15, 20 years or so, we've been taking our packers on an aeroplane, and some of them have not been on an aeroplane ever in their life. In fact, they've had to spend, you know, a little bit of money getting a passport to leave the country. But they have thoroughly enjoyed the 2-3 day long weekend that we've supplied to them. So we go up a ladder, and we've got the office staff. You're right, some of the office staff don't get to come here. And I think that's a different level. So you've got to come and create something for them as well, you know, doing something completely different, to spoil them for a weekend, twice a year,
Exactly.
all that sort of stuff. Giving them the benefit of taking a Friday and a Monday and working at home so that they can, you know, knock off at 4, okay? I mean, who's going to start at 9 unless you've got an active file on them first thing on a Monday morning? So they're having an extra cuddle with their other half. So maybe that's a different way. And then, of course, you look at this audience here. Yes, we've all travelled, but to your point, who else in your company travels? You come here twice a year. One, and the next one is going to be in Vegas, and I'm going to see all the same faces. And I love seeing you all. And then you've got the family members, you know. Oh, the family members have got to go. Well, you can't go because we've got, you know, 4 sons, 3 daughters, and they all want to go. So we don't have that opportunity. Well, maybe mix it around a little bit, you know. Yeah. Christina, you're a classic example. Yeah, you're not an owner. Yeah, but you're here. People know you. You know, well, obviously it's the first time we've met, but...
But an opportunity.
But, so all I'm saying is you just need to slice that company
Yeah.
up and just behave differently to different groups.
Steve, you were going to say something.
I've been very quiet so
Yeah.
far, and I just, because I like listening to, my job is listening to people, not, you know, I don't know any of the answers, but I perhaps know some of the questions. And there's one thing here that I think we might be missing, and I just thought I should mention it, and that is that I think we should all congratulate ourselves. Because despite all these things that everybody's been talking about, we have some fabulous people in this industry.
Mm.
You look around this room and you look at some of the young people that we have in this industry, and I have been immensely impressed by all of them, and I think we're very fortunate of being able to attract that level of people into this industry despite some of the difficulties that we have. I think we can perhaps address some of the difficulties as to why we have those. But the other thing that I think we ought to consider is, you know, if we talk about attracting more people into the industry, I heard somebody once say, and I'm not quite sure what they meant by this, attracting better people into the industry. I don't quite know what they meant by better. But I just wonder what these people that we want to attract are going to do for this industry. If we were able to attract the Ivy League elite into this industry, what do we want them to do that the people that we already have, the fabulous people that we already have, cannot do? And I don't know the answer to that question. But I just think, you know, before we run off, you know, down this rabbit hole of thinking that we can't attract the right people, we should just acknowledge the quality of the people we already do have. That's just what I wanted to say.
Yeah. And I mean, the next thing I want to kind of get into is, where are we looking to hire people now? I mean, show of hands, who went to school to get into this industry? Nobody. Okay. And then who was hired from like a career fair or something at their university? Nobody. So why are we looking constantly for people with degrees and at universities when it's very much, I think, the personality of the person that makes them good at this job? I was getting coffee this morning, and Beth at the coffee bar asked like what this conference was about. So I told her, and she said, I've never heard of that industry, but it's really cool. And as she's talking to me, she's engaged, she's managing a pretty stressful situation with other people there. And I'm thinking like, this is the kind of person that you want. And she might not have, you know, had a 2-year degree, 4-year degree, anything, but how do we find those people? Like, where are we supposed to look for them?
Well, you talk about a fair at university. I mean, you know, I never went to university. I have no idea what you do there, but I assume that there must be those kind of places. Yeah. Are we represented there? Does this industry go to these places and sell this industry? Tell people how wonderful it is. I don't know. I know that, for example, that the Alan Woolstetter Fund in the States has a new strategy now, which is trying to change the image of this industry and trying to attract those type of people. But I don't know that kind of thing has been going on over the decades before. And if it hasn't, then we can't be really very surprised when nobody knows what we do. Yeah. But I mean, you would know better than I whether universities do this kind of thing, or whether we do this in universities. I doubt it very much. I think probably individual companies do, some of the bigger individual companies, but not as an industry. I don't think we do. Do we? I don't know. Tell me.
I think, Christina, last time we were on the phone, one of the things that you came up was if you've got a happy employee, it's like bring a friend next week, will you? You know, and you spread the word. I don't think I didn't go to university, as I said. So looking for a job, it wasn't the university that was finding me a job. However, there is a group, and I think we do this in Singapore, where field trips, we would go to a university, we would go to a poly, whatever, and we would suggest to the person that we're seeing that why don't they bring a group of students and just come and see what we do as a field tour, as a field trip, as a, you know, just for knowledge. And then you sort of like sit, you get them sat, we get about, you know, a few coordinators, people who really like their job, to explain what we do, you know. And you never know when they finish their course, we might get an application that, yeah, I came to see you 2 years ago, I'd love to have a go at this. It seems like fun.
And that's one of many places. Our industry have opportunities for university and colleges, and I've already been in another industry. We have opportunities for people from all walks of life to play. I mean, my last talent was through a Starbucks drive-thru. Amazing experience that I had to go back and have a chat. So you can find someone from a university, from within the industry, from a different industry. There's talent everywhere. As long as the culture in your workplace is good and we market what we are outside of just boxes and trucks, I believe there's so many opportunities for us to attract amazing talents, university degrees or not.
So let's maybe turn then. So let's say we found talent, great, and we've got them in. I do hear that it's impossible to keep talent then. Why? What are we not doing or doing wrong that people are leaving then and we're not retaining talent?
It's not impossible. I think the generation is changing. You've seen that I've been here for a year and now I need a new challenge. That we've seen, and that's what I said earlier. You cannot bring the next generation in and put them in a box. You have to be able to say, here are 50 areas that you can play in, and where do you want to play? And then keep doing that. So one strategy I've seen in the past is cross-training. Today you might be in finance. During our off-season, you're playing somewhere else. And next year you're playing somewhere else. And what it does, it creates exposure. Because sometimes operations does not know what administration does, and administration doesn't know what finance does. If you create an opportunity for them to see and play in other areas, you'll find that talent will surprise you sometime to say, yeah, that's an area I never thought I wanted to be in, but I want to play there now. And that's an excellent way of retaining your talent.
Don't you think there's an adage that says it's very easy to get people to work for you. You just pay them enough and write a contract and the job's done. It's very, very difficult to get people to want to work for you. And the people that have that talent of being able to get people to want to work for them are few and far between in my experience. But
isn't that across the board, though? I mean,
yes, it is. Of course it is. Yeah,
it's not just it's not just
everybody. It's not just this industry at all. But it seems to me that the science is a management thing. The whole point of management is being able to identify what turns people on, what their buttons are, what they're good at, and encourage them to make the best of themselves within the structure of the organisation that you're running. And it does seem to me that I spend an awful lot of time going around an awful lot of companies, talking to people, and sometimes the management, frankly, is lucky. I'll give you an example. I won't tell you the name of the company because it would be embarrassing, but I went to a company once and they were very proud that they had Friday morning meetings, and they invited all the staff and the drivers and everybody into the office early on a Friday morning, and gave them the opportunity to voice their opinions, and the management were very proud of this. I then had the opportunity later on that day to speak to some of the staff, and I said, "What about these Friday morning meetings?" And they said, "Yeah, it's a waste of time." And so all that happens is we go in and the boss just talks at us for half an hour and then we go out. Now, what they would do, the management thought that they were giving their staff the opportunity of voicing their opinions. They weren't. They were just talking at them. And if you're going to listen to somebody, if you're going to hear what they say, you have to really listen to them. You have to take account of it. You have to do something about it, and you have to give them the credit for having thought of the idea in the first place. And if you could do those sorts of things, those management techniques, and you stand a much better chance of keeping the people that you want to keep.
So we talk a lot about, developing training for new hires and how that can help bring them in. But what you're saying is you need better mid-level manager training. The people that need to keep them busy and keep them going and help career path them need to know how to do that better, perhaps.
Yeah, but it's not rocket science. You just have to be decent to people, and you just need to listen to them and listen to what they want to achieve. What is it that turns them on? Everybody's different. You can't just go to management class book 3 and page 2 and say this is how it works. It doesn't. Everybody's different.
But there's a lot more behind that, though. I mean, you need to listen to them, but if the managers don't know from their HR departments, for example, how to properly structure a new job position or create those avenues, then I think that creates some of the problems with losing talent, because they're saying things to you, you're not maybe acting on it, and then they'll go find something else. So I think maybe...
That's right. Well, that's the point.
Yeah.
You've got to act on what they say, if you think it's right, and if you think it's wrong, then tell them why it's wrong, and it won't work for you, and so, thank you very much, but we can't do that this time, but thanks for your contribution. But you don't just ignore them, or worse still, do what they say and make ours your idea. And that kind of thing happens all the time. I've seen it lots and lots of times. And there's something else as well, that just while we're on this topic, having shut up for the first half of this, you've got me going
I think
now.
for last time.
We mentioned it earlier on, Gordon said early on, the people, they want your job and they want it in 2 years. And I think that's true to some extent. We've got to be careful, of course, with all of this, that the tail doesn't wag the dog. They may want all kinds of things, but you're running the business. It's your livelihood, not theirs. But one thing that I've noticed over the years is, and I've said this in many meetings before, is that with the greatest of respect, the older generation needs to be prepared to step back. Because, and I've seen so many times, I've gone to people and they say, oh yes, Grandad comes into the office 3 days a week and he's still chairman of the board and he's 83 this year. Isn't that wonderful? No, it's not wonderful. It might be massaging his ego, but it isn't doing anything for the people that are trying to come up. You've got to give people that are in the younger generations the opportunities to express themselves and to get onto that ladder. And there's no point waiting until somebody's 53 to give them the key to the C-suite lav. I mean, that doesn't work. Yeah. You've got to do it early and make them feel as if they've got some point in staying there.
Yeah, I mean, succession planning is absolutely crucial to, the future of a company. And I'm thinking, is there a difference in the way maybe a family-owned company approaches this versus employee-owned? Does a family-owned company, is this more in their mind because
they get all the good jobs?
Well, no, but really, it's their children that are taking this on, and do they need to focus on it more? Because if they're not preparing the next generation, who else is doing it? I mean, is it a different structure, and is that a difference in our industry?
And are they better? Are they more understanding?
Well, I have to say something about, for example, in our case as a family-owned company, I know we shouldn't be talking about a family-owned company, but our people, for example, see I'm one of the owners, then Stefan is also one of the owners, but Stefan doesn't travel to FIDI conferences. It's another colleague of our company who is in a commercial position who travels to conferences. And then we have, for example, a lot of people asking us, why isn't Stefan traveling to conferences? And we say, because Stefan is in charge of the operations department. And he doesn't know how much tonnage or exactly what an agent has given us or what RFP I just sent. And what I haven't. So, and if I'm traveling and my people see that I'm traveling, it's because they know that I'm in this position because I own this position. Because, and not owning because I'm the owner, but I own it because I know how to do my job. So I think that's important, that you don't put if you have a family-owned company and you're the owner, you don't just travel and you have another commercial assistant who's really good and you give them the opportunity to.
But to Steve's point there, your dad was willing to step away.
Yes.
And let
exactly.
you, while he was still there to
Yes.
help you. I mean, that's kind of the point, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And he actually.
So, but I just wondered, Daniela, how you deal with that for the other people in your company, because they know that they can never aspire to do what you do. So how do you motivate them to be able to feel as if they have a future when they know that they're never going to get your job? How do you do that?
Maybe exactly with the example I was given, we have a colleague of mine who is in charge of accounts, for example, and he's the one traveling. He travels more than Stefan. And I am with him because due to my career path, I'm a marketing salesperson and I've always been there. That's my career. That's why I enter Express Transfer. I enter as a move coordinator, import coordinator, and now 8 years after, I'm in this position. But I started as an import coordinator. And then Sebastian is also traveling. So when people ask us, why isn't my brother traveling? It's like, you may see him again, but it's not actually his job.
Let's acknowledge as well, it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to go from generation to generation. There are many companies where a parent started it, but the children's not involved. Mm-hmm. But just go back to the new generation and the existing or older generation. The new generation will drive innovation and change and all of that fun stuff that we're looking for and we need as an industry. But our current and older generation, they bring something the new generation doesn't have, and that's experience. And if we don't take the time to nurture and to share that experience, we're not preparing the next generation to lead. So it's very important that there's a combination of both in every company and in our industry.
Yeah. So about your question, I think something that really worked out well for us was that when I started, of course, my dad was still in the business, but he was really open to hearing our ideas. So we were lucky because we didn't end the university and then go right away to Express. We work in other industries, so we knew a little bit more about other departments, marketing departments in a big company, etc. So he was really willing to hear us out, and we started with small changes. 2017, from printed files to a moving system software. Then the pandemic hit us, and we were perfectly with a company that was totally digital. But of course, we learned a lot about our dad, and it's like you said, Christina, combination. You cannot stop one thing and start the other one. You need to make a combination about the younger generation, and I don't want to say it, but the older generation. And it's all about hearing and communication, and yeah.
Both sides need to adapt.
Yes, exactly.
In order to survive. Just keeping an eye on the time, I want to just stop, and if there's any questions from the audience at this point, we'll open that up. Magali, or did you?
Just wondering, thanks for your talking, but just wondering if the current generation now are expecting and understanding that their pathway to career advancement is to change jobs, what you've all been talking about becomes a little bit of a moot point. If that is what Gen Z expects to do and they've understood that this is how they advance, they don't expect their employer to provide their career path for them. They're going to go out and take it. How do we combat that? Or do we just, as an association, do we need to come up with a plan to embrace it and allow employees to move between companies to advance their careers, and as a group, we take the advantage of that?
Why not provide that opportunity within your company Because let's be honest, you bring new talent in, as a company, you have to invest time and money and energy to grow that person and to nurture them and to develop them. You don't want to lose them. Our job is to keep them. But in order to do that, we have to acknowledge this is a different generation. They want to be playing in the same sandbox forever. They want to move. So create that opportunity internally so that they can still feel engaged and still be committed to the company while learning new things. And truly, that's it. They want to know more and learn more and play in more areas. So let's create that way in our company.
But you shouldn't be fearful of them moving to another company. So they spend a couple of years with us, then they move on to our competitor, move on to someone else, and they can come back again. It's not a closed door environment anymore. It should always be an open door.
Yeah.
So I had one comment and a question. So Simon, to your point when you're asking who's saying that we are not a sexy industry, I'm sorry, a lot of our company websites absolutely are not sexy at all. So from a marketing perspective, there is so much to do for our industry to appeal to this younger generation that we want to attract, be it as talent or as clients. So there's a big call to action here that maybe one thing we need to work on is our marketing capacities. Then my question to you, Gordon. So you said that when you have an interview and you see the people walk in and they made an effort, great. A lot of these young generations finished their school or university in the middle of a pandemic. They haven't learned how to appear in an interview. They lack some of the communication or the social skills that are key or that were key in the past in the hiring process. So how can we maybe take that into account in the hiring process, knowing that what we often see as well is that it's the older generation that are still taking these hiring decisions based on what they think is important. So how do we bridge that gap between the expectations of the younger generation and the expectation of this older generation that is taking the decisions? How can we bridge that gap?
I don't think I'm asking for someone to present themselves in a suit and tie. Those days have gone. I think as soon as the bankers declared, what was it, Fridays as Polo Day, that was it, that was the end of it. But I want to see an effort. It could be anything. It could be just waiting on time. He's not dripping with sweat because he's been running up the corridor or whatever. He's thought about this. He's got questions. And it's, and for a young person also, asking a right question, once again, is not important. It's the fact that he came up with a question. The fact that he got that question out, so that, he seemed interested. So I think I'll come back to what I was saying is, you have an inclination that, something strikes you in the back of your head that, let's give this guy a go. So, go, guy.
Few points from a baby.
I haven't finished yet.
A baby boomer. And here it is. I am like a baby, but I'm still booming. I want to tell you, young kids is not a problem. They have all the tools. They are even smarter than their teachers. They go to school. They'll tell a teacher after 45 minutes, sorry, you should go to your homework. We know things in a different manner. We will tell you how the GPS is working. We will give you the directions. And if you are in a family business, you should not always have the feeling there is a threat, that you have to enter the footsteps of your mother or your father. They were good for the years that they were doing, but you are coming with a new model of an iPhone 15, and they are still driving with Nokia, and that's not what people are looking today. They want everything with the new vibes. Customers want the new vibes. Nothing wrong to use. It's not how old are you, the experience and miles that you have. No more how old are you. The slogan is, how young are you today?
I don't understand that. So what's your point there?
You can understand it later on when I'll talk to you.
Okay. Bye-bye. Okay.
Hello, Anthony Schiff from MDR Global. I have a comment and a question. So the first comment to Simon's point, I entered this industry back in 2016, having come with a logistics background, and after a couple conferences, attending all of them from FIDI to IAM, Omni, et cetera, I recognized just what Simon said was, there's no drivers, no packers, and so forth. And so in the recent years, we haven't done it in the international one, but certainly for IAM, we've put together a program where we make them do a video essay or a written essay, and we make it a competition. And we've had drivers and packers attend the conferences, and we find that to be very, very beneficial, because when they go back to the company, they talk about it, and then they look at it and said, hey, management's not out there just on a vacation, but they're actually working, and they understand this part of the business in order to make it actually work. So I think it's start looking at being a little bit innovative and out of the box and unorthodox to start including those people, because they bring a lot of value to the organization. The question is, how do you feel about internships and in terms of finding talent, bringing them into the organization and looking at different departments and going about finding talented so you can start to either cherry pick them and put them into the organization, or at least be able to bring some value from the gentleman's point back there about especially around technology and things like that. So just wanted some feedback on internships.
So we started an apprenticeship program 3 years ago to try and bring younger blood into the business. The biggest problem we were having is that with that talent, they're coming straight from school. They'd never worked before in their life. So there's a lot of basic skills that then people needed to be taught before they could actually get out into the real world and make a change to the business and a difference to the business. So it's hard work, I would say. It was hard work.
Okay, and we have about 5 minutes left, so one quick question and then we'll come back.
Hey, Eric Christensen. I specialize in global outsourcing and speak from a perspective of having attracted over 1,000 young people into this industry. One word I thought I would hear is the nasty B word, which is burnout in this conversation. We all, are hard workers. We know this industry is seasonal, and yet somehow it always sneaks up on us and our staff every year. My perspective is that you want to set your players up to play at their highest level, especially your coordinators, et cetera, because they're the ones that are going to feel that pain every year. And some of that is pulling off work from them and giving it to maybe younger people who need to learn the basics first, and then allow the coordinators to do their best work themselves. But I'm curious from the panel, how do you approach the problem of burnout each year? What suggestions do you have for the audience around that?
Your younger generation will not tolerate burnout. They're asking for a balance, and yes, there's no perfect scale to that balance, but I think they're going to create a new environment, which we're all being pushed to support right now, that says, yes, here's what we want, and here's where you need to be in order to retain us. But more importantly, if we don't attract this new generation in, our customers are now evolving as well. They're no longer all old and ready to move. You're finding a new generation of customers that are coming, that are being part of our industry. We have to evolve with that too. So it's important all around. Burnout, yes, it's there. It's important that us as employers acknowledge that it's there and that we have to prepare to support our employees by delegating during our peak season and allowing them to take time off. It's really important to disconnect well.
Thanks, Christina.
For me, just one thing about well-being, maybe we can also start, for example, having a therapist in our companies and investing in that, and having interviews with our people that will be completely private, and investing in those kind of things that may not be salary or a packer's training or something like that, but is directly involved in well-being and seeing our staff as human beings, no? And then also, for example, things that are so easy as a flexible hour to get into the office. There are people that may struggle to get at 8 a.m. because they have kids and they don't have help and they need to prepare for them. And if they have to do it all and then be in time at 8 a.m. in your office, then they have that stress of work. But if maybe you give them a flexible hour between 8 and 9:30 and will not change how your coordinator manages the file, but will help a lot in his quality or her quality of life.
Thanks, Daniela. And just in closing, I mean, to Magali's point, you have to walk the walk and talk the talk in order to get talent in. So if you can each just give one concrete takeaway of how to create the right employee experience or brand your company to attract and retain talent.
Yeah, I think you've got to constantly mentor, to be honest with you. You have to stop what you're doing and go back into the workplace. I think you need to talk to your staff. You need to be close to your staff. You need to be seen by your staff. And you have to have that rapport that they will ask you questions and they're not frightened about asking you questions. I tell my kids, at the beginning, ask as many questions as possible. And the difference was my attitude has changed a little bit because I said, because later on, you'll look stupid. That's kind of gone. Keep asking the questions. I'm asking the questions because there's so much happening in this world. I need help. I need help. Tech and all that sort of stuff. So.
Daniela?
Yeah, for me it's also about hear them. Ask your younger people before they are burned out or they want to leave what they want. It can be anonymous. Just ask them, ask for feedback, and then think about well-being and work-life balance. For me, that is key.
For me, something we've not really touched on is succession planning. So a takeaway for everyone, I think, in this room is to make sure you've got a people pipeline. And what do I mean by that? I mean, you've got a spreadsheet that you can keep locally on your desktop with a list of key roles in the business. And every time you meet someone at a conference or you think, oh, that person internally is good for that role, you add that to that people pipeline. So you're identifying talent in the business and externally that it can be used for later on. And I just think it's important to make sure that we're thinking of future roles.
For me, it's important that you create an environment where employees, especially the young generation, can learn and be safe in knowing that they can learn and fail. We're not doctors, things happen, but if we're going to put up walls where you have to be perfect all the time, they'll never try. But if you're supportive with mentorship and with consideration of their personal bit, create a safe environment for them to learn and fail, and I guarantee you will see progress.
All of those things, plus something we haven't talked about, which is a very practical thing. The FIDI Academy has just launched a sales program. I was talking to Chantal about this earlier on. I think the industry has been very poorly serviced by sales training for decades. And I'm delighted to see that FIDI has now done something about this. And I don't think selling in this industry has been as good as it should have been. And if you can sell better, you can get better prices for what you do, you can get more business, and you might then stand a chance of being able to pay some of these young people the kind of money they want to come and join you.
Yeah. And I'm just going to add one more. You need technology, because the new generation is not going to come work for a company that's still on paper. They're going to want systems, apps, things that they're familiar with and can work with. Otherwise, you're not going to get them in and you're not going to keep them.
Can I just interrupt for 2 seconds because it's time. You have to clear the room for the General Assembly, which will take place in about 15 minutes or so. What a blessing this panel was. And there's one thing that has changed in the past 28 years, 30 years I've been in the business. I wouldn't have dreamed of sitting in a panel with slightly older people in my age. That wouldn't have happened. And now you see 3 very well-spoken young people sitting there, surrounded by 2 slightly older gentlemen.
Who are the 2 older ones?
But that's just astounding, and it's very promising. I really do like that. I want to thank them all for stepping up here, for being here. It was a very well-attended audience, I think, this time. Fantastic. Just for housekeeping, General Assembly in about 15, 20 minutes, I think, in this room, and the other one as well. It's a bit of an odd tradition that we have, that people come to the General Assembly, which is slightly boring, I would think, because we just vote on stuff. But it's your association. I mean, after all, it's you who have voted for all of this, so it's nice if you could show up as well and show the respect to the board for sitting there in front and making those decisions for you. This afternoon, AI is on the agenda, a session by EY, very interesting, and the second session on carbon footprint calculator. I'd like to thank Jackie for stepping up for leading this panel. And you can say the closing words now.
Sorry?
You can say the closing words now.
Okay. Well, I'd like to thank the panel for participating today. I think we had a lot of good suggestions that people can actually act on. And you don't have to do it all at once, but little by little you chip away at this, and that's how we, secure the future of the industry. So thank you, panelists. And thank you all for being here. I mean, the interest that you've showed shows that, this is a topic that's relevant and that's important. So your support is also very welcome and important to the future of the industry. Thank you.